Okay, I think we're live. We're live on Instagram and we're live on Facebook. And it's Monday, May 3rd at 8 o'clock. I want to thank everyone who is with me live, but also those who are going to be watching later. There's nothing wrong with that. We're also going to put this up on YouTube, so you can maybe catch it there. Tonight is the first in a series that we're doing for the whole week. We're calling this Tailored Trips to Transform Week. And the motive for this, or the impetus for this, was that Wednesday is Travel Advisor Day. It's also Cinco de Mayo, but it's Travel Advisor Day as well. And I knew that they were turning it into a whole week. And then over the weekend, I found out they're turning it into a whole month. The American Society of Travel Advisors actually has partnered with Politico to raise awareness about the industry, particularly with people here in Washington, D.C. And their campaign is running from April 30th, last Friday, until May 30th. So it started out as a day, then it was a week, and now it's a whole month. So that's okay, I don't mind. It's a way of not just celebrating travel advisors, obviously it's a way of celebrating travel. And as things begin to start to open up, I thought it would be a good time to do this. We are going to be here every night this week at 8 o'clock talking about different topics. Tonight we're going to be talking first, because I thought this is a good place to start, the most important place to start, is why travel restores us, and that travel after grief, loss, and languishing, which we've all experienced in different degrees and in very particular ways, that travel is something that is not just an antidote, but really can be life-changing. I'm going to start a little bit with a story about me. And this is really why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about it and how it's changed my life. In fact, I would go so far as saying that 10 days on a holiday saved my life. But let me back up first. I actually lived in Italy for a summer many, many years ago, more than 25 years ago. I think just 25 years ago. And it was on that stay, I was there actually studying law. I'm a lawyer too, so that makes me very good at reading footnotes and contracts, by the way, and being a good advocate for you as a travel advisor. I was introduced to yoga. And this was like pre-Madonna, before Madonna made it popular. And it was another classmate of mine who introduced me to it. And I fell in love with him, and then I fell in love with the yoga. And eventually he went by the wayside, but yoga stuck around. And so I've been doing yoga since 1994 because of a trip abroad. And then I was working at PBS as an attorney in their business affairs office, and got sick with a mysterious disease that nobody could help me figure out what it was. And yoga was the only thing that was making my symptoms abate, giving me any semblance of relief. And I had a girlfriend who called me up. I was living with it for probably a year and a half at that point. I'd lost my job and was scrambling. I'd moved home to live with my parents because I was pretty sick. And I had a girlfriend who had seen a yoga retreat like in InStyle magazine, I think it was. And she called me up and said, let's go. You like yoga? I'd like to start yoga. Let's go. At that point, I'd been doing yoga for 8 years, I think. No, 6 years. No, 8 years. It was 2002 that this happened. So actually she canceled and I went anyway because I already had my heart set on it. And that was the 10 days that changed my life. And my yoga practice exploded like confetti. Already when I had gotten sick, I was lucky that I was doing yoga with a Iyengar teacher. And so she was able to adapt, and I learned a lot about restorative yoga and yin yoga and how that could make me feel better. And again, it was the only thing that gave me any agency over my body. So during the retreat though, I did my first handstand. I did my first forearm balance. It was crazy. It was when I was introduced to meditation. And that's the one practice that has, I feel, saved my life, because it's something I now do on a daily basis. And that was all because of a trip. I learned about how food can be medicine or poison. And I was exposed to Ayurvedic treatments, and I got my illness into remission during that trip. And so that was a very, very pivotal trip. And it's why I'm so passionate about creating those kinds of experiences for my clients. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of intro about my own story and my own journey with travel and wellness. And actually also because of that trip, I became a yoga teacher, and I am now a certified yoga therapist. So I am an attorney, a certified yoga therapist by the International Association of Yoga Therapy, and now designing wellness travel, combining all those interests. So let's talk about the pandemic. We have all, in different ways, experienced different losses. Some of us have had loss of income. Some have had loss of identity. Some have had loss of quiet because you're schooling your kids at home. And actually, some have lost loved ones. I lost my dad at the beginning of all this, and there ensued a lot of changes in my life that were not necessarily by choice. Again, my meditation practice was very good in terms of helping me maintain resilience through all of this. Again, something that I picked up on a trip. So my point in talking about that is that we all have had very particular ways of dealing with this, different types of grief. We all deal with grief in different ways. And that then, in terms of restoration, means that you need a particular type of trip. There's been some talk in the travel industry about revenge travel. Like, take that pandemic, I'm going to go on every place on my bucket list and spend all the money I couldn't on a trip last year. Sort of like revenge travel. And that may be fine if distraction is what would restore you. And for some people, that's perfectly fine and legitimate, and that's one way of dealing with it. But there's also a different type of travel that people are yearning for that would give them a reboot in their life. There was an article in the New York Times about languishing, and using that word languishing to describe just not having any motivation. You're not really depressed, but you're not really feeling vital or have energy, but you're just sort of existing. A friend of mine, when I shared that with her, sent me an article, said, "I'm not languishing, I'm just dormant," which is actually a very good piece. So whether you're languishing or dormant, a trip away can help reboot. And I have a whole blog post about this. I'm not going to tonight sit here and read the blog post. I'm not going to do that to you, but I'm just going to give you some of the highlights as to how travel restores us and why. So the first one is that it can be an escape. That's the distraction part. You can just sort of change your scene and get out of your normal routine. And that alone sometimes is enough to come back to your life and feel refreshed, right? Just being able to escape. Sometimes I call myself an escape artist extraordinaire. Another one is that it can help us grieve. Grief is like fear. And when you're missing someone or something or some part of your life, if you change your scene, the sense of loss is not as acute. So if everything's different, then that one thing in your life, or that one person who was in your life who's missing, that absence doesn't feel as vast if everything's different. It's one of the reasons why I'm hoping to spend Christmas in Italy this coming year, if Europe opens up as hoped this summer. So that's another way that travel can restore. If you change your scenery, you sort of then can remove yourself from that gaping hole in your life. Another way that travel restores is that it can shift your outlook. We've all gained new perspective through this, but travel as well can sort of help you separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, what's meaningful and what's not, and give you the space and time to figure out what it is that's important to you in your life. There's a great book called Essentialism that I also recommend that sort of can do that too. Not to as great extent as travel can, but can just sort of help us figure out our priorities. And when you remove yourself from your day-to-day routine, you give yourself the time to do that and to evaluate that, rather than being forced into it by a pandemic. This next one is travel makes us stronger. I just would reiterate my own example of learning new skills and meditation. There's it cultivates resilience. There's a book by Gretchen Rubin that I read last year called Better Than Before. The subtitle's ridiculous. It's really long. She writes about habits, and I didn't like the book, but she did say one interesting thing, which is it's easier to try out and adapt and and cultivate new habits when you have gone on a trip and when you first come home from a trip. So I thought that was a very interesting part of her book. It's the only part that I liked, about, how travel, because you're out of your routine, you can pick up new things like I did in terms of the meditation. So it's in that way, especially if you're doing wellness travel, it can create resilience in your regular everyday life and help strengthen you. So that's another way that travel restores. Another thing that I like to talk about is that it's a way of just play. You get out of a schedule, you do things you wouldn't normally do, you're able to be spontaneous, things happen serendipitously, you meet new people, maybe you build a sandcastle, you sort of go back to that sense of spontaneity that we have when we're kids. And that sense of, I wouldn't say innocence necessarily, but really just a sense of play and delight and joy. And that can be different things to different people too. I mean, it could be reading a trashy novel on the beach and drinking margaritas. It could be going to a concert. It could be doing a tour of all the hot springs across the world. Whatever that is, whatever would be playful to you would be the focus then of a personally designed holiday for you. So, and it's when we're on our holidays that we can allow ourselves the freedom to play, and maybe then also bring that home as well, along with any new habits. Next thing that I kind of talk about the next thing I talk about in the blog post is that the holidays create space for magic to happen. It just sort of, again, breaks you out of your routine and opens us up to possibilities of the unexpected. And the unexpected does happen on holidays, not just in terms of who you meet, but in terms of your adventures. I like to say that I don't just craft travel, I craft stories that you enter into and that you experience and that you take home with you and that you share as memories with others. And that's one of the ways that I like to think of travel being magical, just in the same way that a good story is magical. And then the final way is that it's a great way to reconnect with others. Now, there's some talk about reconnecting with your family. There's other talk about reconnecting with anybody but your family because you've been quarantined with them. So maybe you want to get away with your girlfriends for a little bit, or go on a golfing trip with your guy friends, or have a mini college reunion with your old friends that can remind you of who you are. So those are just 7 ways that that travel can help restore us, and why wellness travel in particular is so helpful. Now, next thing, I want to talk about the New York Times travel show that I went to 6 weeks before the world shut down. And I went to a panel on wellness travel. And it was really, really interesting about what they were saying then were going to be the trends in the next year or 2 years. Again, this is before the pandemic. So, and I think many of the things that I learned about and heard about then, I think have only been magnified by what we've been through. So, first of all, the wellness industry, in case you didn't know, is a $48 trillion industry. And of that, wellness travel is $639 billion, which represents 17% of global travel. Now, again, this is before the pandemic. I think that's probably going to increase as well. But it's just to tell you that there's it already was a big pie. Almost 1/5 of all global travel was focused on wellness. And again, I think it's going to increase. Now, how we define wellness is also kind of different and is evolving. And again, I think the things that they talked about a year ago is only more true. It includes sustainability. So it's not just the wellness of we personally, but of our planet and of the communities that are impacted by travel. That one of the phrases I heard was that originally travel was about consumption, and then immersion was the big trend, and now it's conversion, so that you leave a place better than you found it. So it's not just maintaining and sustaining the earth, but even leaving it better than it was before you got there. And that the travel industry should focus on that, which I thought was really great and encouraging. Another thing was about more deeper experiences. So, and this made me think of what's going on in the yoga world as well, but that there's a lot of well washing going on in the travel industry, which doesn't get very deep. It's very superficial, these experiences, and that we need more authentic experiences and experiences that really give you a lot of attention and that give you the space for you to pay attention. So, so a sense of deeper wellness, like I said, I like that phrase, well washing. We don't want that. And that made me think of yoga, because in the yoga world, there are a lot of people teaching yoga in gyms who are very superficial. Even their training was very superficial. They went away for a weekend and did a training, and then they're teaching yoga. So if you really want a transformational trip, you want to make sure that you're having an experience that, if you're going to spend the money and the time to do this, that it's something that is a deep experience and is more than just massages at a spa, for example. The other thing is that wellness is for everybody. It's not just for people in Lululemon pants who, have a yoga butt. I used to say when I taught yoga that you don't need a yoga butt to do yoga. It's not even the best part. And the same thing is true for wellness travel. It's really for everybody, of all ages and all sizes, and all for everybody. I deeply believe that. And then the last thing, the other very interesting trend, which I had never heard this word before, but I knew of it because, as if you have attended any of my Substance Spotlights, I've talked a little bit about this Irish interior designer named Clodagh. And she's designed the Miraval spas as well as Six Senses in Portugal. And I heard a director, a senior vice president from Hilton, speak about how they were incorporating biophilic design. That's what that means literally, is a way of building hotels and resorts to increase the occupants' connectivity to nature, the natural environment, space and light, and to bring the outside in. So it was interesting to me to hear that Hilton was hopping on that train, and not just simply wellness resorts. And again, I think that's just going to be magnified in the time going forward. Two other things, and maybe people who are watching might want to participate. There were two surveys that I was going to share with you a little bit about what the main goals are for people who do wellness travel. So I'm going to read them off, and you're going to tell me what you think is number one, okay? To launch a fitness routine, to figure out ways of managing stress, to create a better relationship with food, for mental health or meditation, to kickstart weight loss, reconnect with yourself, or recover from a loss or stress, or an overall reboot. Does anybody have any guesses? Well, number one, the last one was launching a fitness routine. And number one was a general overall reboot. And then the must-haves, I thought this was interesting. The first answer, 83%, was a wide range of fitness activities. Access to nature was 77%. Peace and quiet, 62%. Spa treatments, 57%. Yoga, 46%. Meditation, 35%. And the last one was only 8%. This was a truly hosted event. And I think they said then that they thought that was going to double. I think with the pandemic, I think that's also going to quadruple. And in fact, I myself am going to be hosting a retreat to Miraval later this year. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me. I'll be teaching yoga and meditation on that retreat. And we'll make sure that everything goes smoothly from soup to nuts, because I'll be there with you to offer a full reboot. So I hope that you do join me. Some places to go for a reboot. I mentioned Miraval. That's one. That's one that I particularly like, and they have 3 locations right now. Another one is the Amman Resorts. They do very, very well with wellness and also very good with design. They're going to be opening up a new one in New York as well, in New York City. And then there's Canyon Ranch, which is probably the oldest and most well-known as well. and a place called Privé Suisse, which is in Connecticut. It's a very private, exclusive place to go and get a lot of help and to reboot when you're exhausted. So those are 3 local, and then abroad, once things open up, there's a couple places that are just spectacular. There's Shaw Wellness Clinic in Spain, in the mountains in Spain. There's the Wald Hotel Health and Medical Excellence, that's in Switzerland. The Oktar Collection has the Brenner's Park Hotel and Spa in Germany. And then the Six Senses, they have destinations all over the world, but the one in Douro Valley, the one that Clodagh has designed, has a special sleep program that's very good. So I just wanted to mention a couple of possibilities. On the blog post, you can see some pictures of these places if you'd like to see them. And yeah, I think we all need a wellness vacation after this year. Okay, so let me just share with you a little bit of what's going on. I hope you stayed tuned for this. We are very excited to have relaunched our website. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second. Take that away and share my screen. And up here you'll see that you now have a form where you can submit a little bit of details so you can start the process of planning your trip right there in the top navigation bar. And then we also have a travel quiz for you. So let me just scroll down a little bit here on the home page and highlight. We have virtual travel events. I'll talk about that in a second. Travel and wellness tips, that's from our blog. And then planning of future travel. And if you're thinking about getting away, I would encourage you to start the process now because demand is high and supply is low because of social distancing. Yeah, so let's see. So virtual travel, I was going to mention that. So we are doing a couple of things. We have fun and flavors and fun, sorry. We just went to Ireland a week ago Sunday, which was fantastic. And we announced this past Sunday, yesterday, that we are next going to South Africa. And that's just going to be fantastic. Let me actually click on that so you can see where we're going in South Africa. Mostly Cape Town. It's not clicking through. Is that going to click through? No, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Hang on. Stand by. Here we go. So this describes our event for South Africa. So we're very excited about it. We have a wonderful partner, Hills of Africa, who's going to take us on a tour of South Africa. We're going to learn about the cuisine scene in Cape Town, which is quite robust. And we're going to learn how to make this dish called chakalaka, which is fun to say, with Chef Monica with a hands-on cooking lesson. So I just wanted to mention that because that's something coming up on May 16th. It would make a great Mother's Day present. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you is this travel quiz, which is pretty exciting. Let me just show you this. And it is up and running now. So if you are ready to figure out where you should go first with just 10 short questions, you can find out where you should go next based on your travel personality. So when you get to the results, you get 5 suggested destinations. 3 are based on your travel personality, of what you probably are already dreaming about. And if you knew to dream about it, that is. And then the second 2 are things that you maybe should consider. So I'm not going to tell you what the results are, but they're pretty good. This has actually been baking in the oven here at Premier Wellness Travel since the fall. And we were very excited to have this up and running this week. So you just click on here, take the quiz, and get started. Yeah, so talked about the event, the flavors and fun, and I showed you the website. So if you want to see the blog post that is about languishing and why travel restores, you just go here to the blog. It's a nice picture of me. and it's right here. Grief, Loss, and Languishing, Why Travel Restores. And you can see here that there are some photos down at the bottom of some of the places that I talked about, some really beautiful places. And if you want to, you can click through and sort of explore them on your own. This is a great film from Shaw Wellness. And you can just click here too to plan your trip, and some additional resources there, including the article from the New York Times about languishing. Okay? So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you have a great night. I will see you tomorrow, where we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? COVID. We're talking about COVID and how the travel industry will be different, how travel will be different after COVID, how it will feel different and how it will function different. And yeah, I got a lot to say about that, a lot of information to share. So tune in tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and we will see you there. Thanks, everybody, whether you're watching this live or later. I appreciate you tuning in. And I hope you have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.